Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
We're recording a little bit later than we normally do on a Saturday because both of us stayed up past our bedtime last night to watch Duke versus Gonzaga. That game was started at 10:30. Did you stay up till the end?
First of all, 10:30 start is like just a killer. I can't even believe that I actually did stay up.
So the Canadians had a game last night, and when that game ended, I still had an hour to kill before the Duke game started.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip, so today we're going to count down our favorite scenes from the movie Love, Actually. I did invite your wife to be a guest on this episode, but she declined, unfortunately. I'm assuming she has another meeting at the same time, and that's probably why she declined. But before we get to that, I want to let you know that a friend of ours, a friend of yours and mine, Jamie from Montreal, was actually in Toronto last week visiting me. So It was nice to see him because I haven't seen him in a while. And we didn't do like any crazy stuff, because both of us are old and both of us go to bed early. But we did go out for dinner twice, and we did go out for brunch twice, and we actually went to an Ontario Hockey League hockey game, and we went to a movie. So we did all this.
You went to a movie in the movie theater?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a sec.
Whoa.
We did all that in about 2.5 days. And it's not like we did any crazy stuff. Like we didn't come home late or anything. But when he left, I was exhausted.
So it's a combination of being old, which we are.
Yes.
And also like 2 years of not doing anything. Your body's not used to doing stuff.
Exactly. I did more in those 2.5 days than I normally do in a full month.
In a full month? It's true.
Well, listen to what I did. I went out for dinner twice, brunch twice, a movie, and a hockey game. I don't do all that in a month.
That's a lot. So what movie did you see?
So I'm glad you asked. We went to see the new James Bond movie.
Oh, really?
Yes. Have you seen it? I guess not, because you haven't been to a theater.
No.
My first time in a movie theater in almost 2 years. Actually, probably more than 2 years, maybe 3 years.
You're not like a big James Bond guy in the first place.
No, I'm not. But, when you go see a movie with someone else, it's hard to agree on what movie you want to see.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So I've seen other James Bond films. Do you know what happens in this movie? Like, I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Don't give me any spoilers. I don't know anything.
Okay, so then
just tell me, like, is it like thumbs up or thumbs down? Did you like it or did you not like it?
I liked it.
Good. Okay.
I mean, as far as James Bond movies go.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can suspend belief momentarily, because like like in James Bond movies, his car goes flying over this cliff and like lands on a bridge, and like there's not one scratch on the car.
Right.
Like that would, if I did that with my car, it wouldn't work.
I don't think so. That's great.
So I did give away one scene.
Mailbag.
So did we have any REM listener mail?
We did, yeah. I got a note sent to us via Facebook from an old friend of ours, Dan, who lives in North Carolina. It was so touching, his note, actually, just because I haven't heard from him in so long. So I'm just going to read it straight. I'm just going to read the note exactly word for word. Usually I paraphrase them,
Okay, great.
Hi, guys. Awesome work with your podcast. Quick things. Really enjoy the REM episode. I thought I was on the same wavelength as Skip until the last song, and Josh pulled it off with "It's the end of the world as you know it. Winner, winner, chicken dinner." So I guess he liked your number one,
but he liked the rest of your list better.
Right. So you asked listeners for topic ideas.
Yeah.
He asked if we could do a John Cougar Mellencamp episode.
We could do that.
I don't think so.
Your wife would want to be involved in that.
Maybe. So then the second thing he had to say is, having both of you on the Duke bandwagon is sweet. He's been living in Raleigh for about 25 years now, and it's definitely college basketball heaven, he says. You both are always more than welcome to come visit now, anytime. So,
well, now that I know that we have a friend there,
yeah,
we're road trip, right? Because now we have a place to stay, and now all we have to do is worry about how we're going to get tickets to a game. This year will be impossible.
Right. So I'm going to read the rest of the note. On a personal note, Skip, there was a mention about an REM member being rushed to the hospital, which was in your list, Josh.
Right.
It took me right back to when to when you and Costa's another friend of ours, were there for me when I took a cheap shot on a double play in softball game and I was taken to the hospital. To this day, it holds a special place in my heart. It meant much more than you'll ever know. Like that me and Costa stayed with him in the hospital like pretty much the whole night. He says, thanks and keep up the great work. He says, I'm serious about the invitation for the two of you. It can also include golf, hockey. He says he coaches his son's hockey team. And we can even have a Canes outing. He says he lives 15 minutes from the PNC Arena. So thanks, Dan, for that note. It was really appreciated.
That is an excellent note. Thank you very much, Dan. I feel terrible because I don't think I was at the hospital with you guys. So I don't know where I was that night.
It's possible that you weren't.
Was I even on that team?
It's possible that you weren't there. I don't know. I don't remember. So we landed on this topic today for the movie Love Actually. And I thought about it like almost a year ago. I don't know when. Like there was like two times during the past year or so where you mentioned the movie Love Actually. And I was surprised that you were like a fan of this movie. So I wrote it down in my little notes. Like we should do an episode about this movie in some capacity. And we saved it now for like we're in the build up towards like the Christmas and the holiday season, right? So it's the perfect timing to do this. My wife, you mentioned my wife. We sat down together. We watched the movie this week, and we both took notes. And then as we were taking notes, she was looking over like it was like, we were back in high school looking at someone else's work, like she's seeing what I'm writing, like how come I'm writing so much and she's not writing. It was like it was funny to watch a movie with the intention of taking notes, and it's a movie that we've both seen so many times that it's like all the parts already, so yeah.
So I also took notes, but I have a very important question to ask before you go any further.
Yeah.
How did you take notes? Did you actually have like a book and a pen, or did you do it on your phone? Like, how did you take notes?
I did it on my phone in like the Google Keep where I have my podcast notes. My wife did it on a piece of paper, like on a pad and pen.
Okay.
Yeah. I know.
Okay.
Difference. I love that question, by the way. That's a great question. So Love Actually, it's like a really beloved movie. A lot of people really love it. It's not just you and me. It's like people really love it. And then, there's another Christmas movie that people really love, which is Die Hard. People question whether this is a Christmas movie. And there's a Netflix movie that me and my wife watched like a couple weeks ago, and it's called Love Hard.
That's funny. I've never heard of it.
It's about a couple that, they eventually become a couple. All these Christmas movies, how they work. But the guy, one of them really loves Die Hard, and one of them really loves Love Actually, right? And then in the end, they combine the two.
That could be another topic for another episode where we just do our favorite Christmas movies.
We could, but I mean, I don't know if I have that many, to be honest. So, Love Actually, what year did it come out? Do you have it written down? I don't even know.
2003.
2003. So obviously everybody listening probably knows the movie. It's this huge ensemble cast with Hugh Grant, Alan Rickman, Liam Neeson, Colin Firth, Keira Knightley. I'm only mentioning, like, there's so many more people that I haven't even mentioned. There's tons of actors and actresses in this movie. Of course, set at Christmas time in London. And it's basically about interconnected characters, like a bunch of sort of loosely interconnecting stories that are trying to show that love actually is all around us, as the title suggests.
That's a great way of describing it. By the way, let me just state at the beginning, during this episode, when I refer to characters, I'm going to use their name that was used in the movie, not the real actor's name.
Okay, it's funny because I have notes and I have a combination of that, right? Sometimes I'm talking about Hugh Grant, but I'm not saying his name, or I'm talking about, the Keira Knightley character. Anyways, I have it's interesting. I'm glad you set that ground rule. Very, very good. Very good.
Because you mentioned Colin Firth, but there's also a character in the movie whose name is Colin. So when I say right. Colin, I'm referring to the character, not Colin Firth.
Got you. I love that. So we're gonna go with our top 7 scenes of the movie, right?
Correct.
Number 7.
It's like one of the most known scenes in the movie. It's not my favorite. That's hence it only made it to number 7, right? And that's the scene. And I'm going against your rule because I actually don't know the character's name.
That's okay. You can use the actor's name.
Yeah, that's the scene where Andrew Lincoln shows up at Keira Knightley's door on Christmas Eve, and he's finally decides to tell her exactly how he feels. And he does this by using the handwritten signs, over and over, telling her, this, that, it's just Christmas. And I thought I'd tell you how I feel, whatever, whatever. And then she comes out the door and she gives him a kiss. And then he's like, okay, that's it. And it's really like, you think that it's really like a heartwarming scene, but it's really quite sad, And the amazing thing is, every time I see Andrew Lincoln in this movie, you never watched The Walking Dead, right?
No, I haven't.
So Andrew Lincoln is the main character in The Walking Dead. So every time I watch this movie and he's just this regular guy in love with Keira Knightley, I just expect him to all of a sudden start shooting and stabbing people,
I didn't even know what his real name was until you just mentioned it. So I don't know anything about him.
There you go.
That is a great scene. And actually, because my original list had about 21 different scenes on it and I had to cut it down to 7. So it didn't make my top 7, but that's a great scene.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's hear yours.
So my number 7 is, the little boy Sam. So when Sam tells his dad that he's in love with a girl in his class, his dad is actually relieved because his dad was worried about Sam. His mom had just died, and his dad was worried that maybe Sam was doing drugs or something. So his dad was relieved. But then Sam says to his dad, there's nothing worse than the total agony of being in love.
Right.
So that's number 7 for me.
It's a great scene because the wisdom of the little son is much more. He's much more wise than the older stepfather, in a sense.
Number 6.
Number 6 for me is Jamie and Aurelia. So Jamie is Colin Firth. Aurelia, I don't know the name of the actress. This is like when, she's like his housekeeper at the house that he's renting in I guess it's France, where he's trying to write his book. And he goes outside and he's doing his writing. And then she comes to give him like a snack or tea or to clean up after him. And she lifts something and all his papers fly away. And then, of course, she strips down and she jumps into the water to try to save the papers. Now, what's interesting for this scene is because up until this point, Aurelia looks like a very plain, ordinary looking type of girl. You don't think twice about her. She's just Aurelia. But all of a sudden, when he sees her like in her underwear and she has this tattoo on her back and he's like very intrigued all of a sudden. And also the viewers are too, right? Because all of a sudden you see her in a different way. And then she jumps into the water to try to save the papers, and the translation, because they can't speak the same language, right? So he keeps telling her, oh, the book is garbage, don't bother saving the papers. And then meanwhile in Portuguese, she's saying, I hope this stuff is good, and she's like, she's saying in Portuguese, who doesn't have a backup? Who writes stuff on paper? It's just, the whole thing is just so bizarre and funny and very charming. So that's number 6 for me.
Okay, so it's great that you mentioned that scene because that's next on my list as well.
I love when that happens.
Yes. So, you've said pretty much everything there is to say about it. He's outside typing and it's windy and he's got rocks holding down all these pieces of paper that he's already typed. And then she comes and brings him tea. She lifts the rock. The paper goes flying. She feels terrible. She takes off her clothes and jumps into the water. It's freezing. She's cursing in her language. He doesn't understand. He feels like he has no choice but to jump into the water also because he feels bad now. And like you said, he's saying that the book sucks, it's not that important, and she's saying this book better be good because it's freezing in this water. And they're just saying exactly what's on their mind, but neither one understands anything. It's hilarious.
And he's such an accident waiting to happen, who goes outside with the only papers of your book and has a rock, this is the dumbest thing in the world, it's really quite stupid.
It is really quite stupid, but it's an excellent scene.
Number 5.
All right. So number 5 for me, and I'm sure this is going to be on your list, maybe number 1, because I know how much you love it. I just titled the scene Wisconsin.
That's a good title.
So Colin, the regular British dude who says he can't meet any girls in England because he's too plain, but if he goes to America, he'll be Colin, the fascinating British guy. And at any bar in America, he can go and meet women because he'll have this cool British accent. And his friend tells him how stupid the plan is, and he goes, and his plan works perfectly. He goes to Wisconsin, he walks into a bar, he meets 3 super hot girls. One of them is Alicia Cuthbert. And then, they're all hot and they're like, oh, wait till you meet our other roommate. She's the sexy one. And, she's played by Shannon Elizabeth. And then, I mean, their conversation is just so ridiculous. Like, we're so poor, we only share one bed and we don't have any clothes, so we have to sleep naked. And will you be able to sleep with us? And he's just like, okay. So that's Colin. Colin goes to Wisconsin. It's very, very funny.
Love that scene.
He gets in the taxi and then he tells the taxi driver, take me to a bar. Which bar? Any American bar.
I love that scene.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 5 for me, it's the scene with Judy and John, who you probably don't even recognize those names. They are the movie stand-ins.
Oh, I didn't even know the names of the characters.
So they're having simulated sex because they're movie stand-ins. And then all of a sudden, the lighting guy comes and places his light meter right near her breasts, as if it's no big deal. Like, he needs to check if the lighting is correct. He doesn't care the fact that they're both naked. And then at one point, the director tells John to put his hands on Judy's breasts. So he warms up his hands because, he doesn't want them to be too cold. And then the entire time while they're having this simulated sex, they're talking
about traffic.
Yeah, they're talking about the traffic and how it was so hard to get to the set that day.
I love it.
Later on, this is a different scene, but later on, they're having simulated sex, and he says, hey, how'd you like to go out for a cup of coffee sometime or something like that? Like, he asks her out. It's just very funny.
Yeah. It's very cute, all their interactions. And at the end, they get engaged, right? I think.
They go on a date. I'm not sure if they get engaged, but yeah, you could be right. Yes.
Or they're a couple anyways. Like, yeah.
Number 4.
All right. Number 4 for me. This is the Prime Minister of England, played by Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant is so funny sometimes, honestly. He's very underrated in the way he does comedy. So Hugh Grant is the Prime Minister of England. He's just had this press conference where he stood up for his country and put down the United States and their evil president, played by Billy Bob Thornton. And then he's so proud of himself that he's the hero of the day, and he's dances around the Prime Minister's office to the song Jump by the Pointer Sisters, doing all these crazy dances. Of course, until he realizes he's not alone and one of the staff has been watching him. You'd think that it's like very like hokey and it's like, oh yeah, like it's dumb, Hugh Grant dancing. But like, I dare anybody to watch this scene and not like smile and laugh. It's just really, really funny.
It's a great scene. Again, it made my long list, but not my short list. Right. And one thing you left out there, you talked about the press conference where he throws the president under the bus, basically.
Yeah.
In that speech, he mentions all the great things about England, like Harry Potter, the Beatles, and David Beckham.
Yeah, David Beckham's right foot. David Beckham's
exactly.
left foot. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm on number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this could have been number 1. Like, the top 4 all could have been number 1 for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first scene of the movie where Billy Mack is recording the new Christmas song. So he keeps making the same mistake over and over again because, they changed the words for this version. And he keeps saying the old words. And by the way, during this whole scene, he's got the dirtiest mouth on the planet. Anyway, he finally gets it right with the right words. And then his manager, Joe, is so happy when he finally gets it right. But then you see Billy Mack and Joe talking like during the recording, and they both agree that the song sucks. Like, they're recording this song and they both agree that it sucks. In fact, later, Billy Mack is doing a live interview at a radio station and he admits live on the air that the new record sucks, and he swears on live radio. It's hilarious.
Billy Mack is really funny in the movie. I knew you would have that. I knew you would have one scene of Billy Mack in your list because I know you've talked about it before. I had him in my honorable mentions. Like, I don't have 21, like a list of 21. Like, you only had like 8 or 9. So he is like number 8 or 9. So
Number 3.
Number 3 for me. It's a very underrated scene. The Prime Minister is desperate to find Natalie because he wants to profess his love to her, I guess, or I don't know, and so he gets a car and he tells his driver, go to the dodgy end of like wherever the street, like he kind of knew where she lived, which is stupid because she works for him. He could have looked up her exact address. I mean,
I guess, yeah.
He's the Prime Minister of England. He surely could find out where someone lives, especially someone that works for the prime minister. So it's kind of strange. But anyways, so he goes door to door knocking, trying to like, does Natalie home? Is Natalie home? Is this where Natalie lives? And eventually he finds Natalie. But the funniest part is he gets to like someone's house and there's little kids that answer the door and they're like, sing us some Christmas carols, sing us some Christmas carols. So like he starts singing, the prime minister, Hugh Grant, he starts singing and it seems fine. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, his driver or his bodyguard, or maybe his driver / bodyguard, all of a sudden joins into the Christmas carol and starts singing with like the deepest voice. Like he's like a professional like opera singer. It is really, really funny. When that bodyguard like joins into the song, it's like I just die every single time.
Please, sir, please. Please.
All right.
Hooray!
Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen,
When the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even.
Okay, so that scene is also number 3 for me. So it happens
Oh
once
my
again.
God. Yeah.
So, and everything you said is correct. What I love is, so he's knocking on all these doors, like you said, and people recognize who he is. He's the prime minister. So
Yeah.
the looks on the people's faces that the prime minister is just here knocking on my door, the looks on their faces is hilarious.
There's an older lady. She's like, aren't you the prime minister? He's like, yeah, it's part of the service now. I'm trying to get around to everybody's house, And then the scene continues actually, like when he finds Natalie and then they get into the car to go to school, to the school for the performance, which is ridiculous because they're in the car for 1 minute.
I know, the school's just around the corner, literally.
And they have the kid in the octopus costume sitting between them.
Even before that, though, the funny part is when he finds the right house and the whole family answers the door and Natalie's not there yet. Like, she's upstairs.
Yeah.
So she finally comes down. So she sees him. She recognizes him, obviously. And then the family's like, well, we have to go to the play. You can't talk to this guy right now.
The mother, like Natalie's mother, she's trying to explain to him like how it's really important and all the schools are there this year. Even like, I forget the name. She mentions like even so-and-so is there. And it's really quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, wow. We had some of the same in the same slot.
It's great.
Number 2.
So I'm at number 2. So like number 2 and 1 for me were obvious when I made the list. I knew exactly what they were going to be. We could do a podcast on like our favorite Christmas songs.
Yes.
Okay. Like weird for 2 Jewish guys to do that, but there are Christmas songs that I like. And most people consider Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas as like the best Christmas song ever. But I will tell you that All I Want for Christmas, sang by Joanna, the 11-year-old girl in this movie, is the best version of All I Want for Christmas. It's definitely better than Mariah Carey's version.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There's just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you.
By the way, I looked her up. Her name is Olivia Olson. That's the little girl's name.
And is she really singing in the movie?
Yes. I read an article that said that they originally planned to dub it. Because what happened was she sang so well that they thought it was too ridiculous that a girl could sing this well. So they were like, we need to like change it. But in the end, they kept her exact voice. It is her singing. And she hasn't really been in anything of note, like other than this movie. Like she's done cartoon voices and stuff, but she's not really in showbiz anymore. Anyway, so that version, her singing the song, the way Sam is drumming, sort of angry and happy at certain times of the song is great. And then I cheated because even though it's not exactly the same scene, because they intercut what's going on with Jamie and Aurelia at the same time as they're showing the Christmas concert. But when the show is over and Liam Neeson comes out to see his his boy, you know, and he's like, Sammy, epic drumming. He's like so proud of him, you know. And then of course he meets the woman who looks like Claudia Schiffer, you know, the other mom, and it's
it is Claudia Schiffer.
It is, but I mean, she's not playing herself,
Right.
right? She's playing a mom at the school, right? And the two boys are like, they see that the parents are flirting and they're looking at each other like, oh, what's going on here, you know? Like that little extra 1 minute scene is also quite charming too. So
That is a great scene. And she did do an excellent job of singing. Like, actually, as I was watching it, I'm saying to myself, wow, there's a lot of presence on that stage for an 11-year-old.
Absolutely, yeah.
So great scene, great choice. But it didn't make my list.
Mm-hmm.
So number 2 for me, and I think this might be your number 1. This is when Jamie goes to look for Aurelia, finds her house, finds her dad and her mom. And then the dad says, well, she's at work right now. I'll take you there. So now you've got Jamie and Aurelia's dad walking to the restaurant where Aurelia works. And then
the sister. Yeah.
And the sister, right? And then all of a sudden, like, all these other people from the town sort of get wind of what's happening and they start following. And now there's this huge crowd of people following them. And then the crowd of people, they're not exactly sure what's going on. So they start yelling out random things. Like one person yells out, "This man is going to kill her."
Right.
And anyway, just the stuff that gets yelled out is quite funny. At one point during this whole interaction, the dad refers to his other daughter, the one that's right next to him, as Miss Dunkin' Donuts 2003.
Right. He's fat shaming his own daughter.
Yeah.
That would never happen if they made this movie in 2021.
Number 1.
You are right. This is my number 1. So you described it very well. So you described the lead up perfectly to get to the restaurant where Aurelia works. That's great. But then the proposal happens, right? So Jamie finds her and she's up on like the second level of the restaurant and then he's learned Portuguese. We've seen a scene where he's trying to learn Portuguese. So we know he's learned Portuguese to speak to her. So you see what he's saying, you hear what he's saying, and then the translations are on the bottom of the screen and they're not really good. Like he's really not saying all the right words. Some of his words are really strange and out of place. And then of course she says yes in English because she's learned English as well, which is absolutely amazing. So it's when she says yes, that would be really nice, you know, like it's really it's incredibly heartwarming and charming. So it's that's why it's my favorite scene in the movie.
The way how she's up on the balcony, it's almost like a Romeo and Juliet thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And then of course like she kisses him, but then the sister kisses him and then the father kisses him and he's like, what's going on here? And it's very triumphant. So yeah, now we're going to hear what your number 1 scene is. Like,
well, it's going to come as no surprise to you. I didn't label it the same way as you did, but it's called Wisconsin.
Right.
So
okay.
this scene, I had to watch it over and over again because it's just so good. So Colin tells his friend in England, yes, I'm going to go to the United States because I can't find any women here in England, but I'll be able to find so many women in the United States, which is the most foolish thing I've ever heard. But then, as you said, he goes to just some random bar in Milwaukee and he walks in and there's these 2 extremely attractive women there. He starts talking to them and they immediately like him. But then they tell him they have a third friend who's about to arrive, whose name is Carol Ann, who is, as you said, Alicia Cuthbert. And they tell him before she arrives, she's actually hotter than both of us. Right. So she comes in and then she instantly likes him because I think she likes people with British accents. And like you said, they say to him, well, where are you staying? And he says, I don't know. And they say, well, you can stay with us, you know, but the problem is we have a 4th roommate. We only have 1 bed and we don't have pajamas. So you're going to have to sleep with all of us. And you can see like the look on his face is priceless. He can't wait.
Where are you staying?
I don't actually know. I guess I'll just check into a motel like they do in the movies.
Oh my god, that is so cute. No, listen. This may be a bit pushy because we just met you, but why don't you come back and sleep at our place? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, it's not too much of an inconvenience.
Hell no. But there's one problem.
What?
Well, we're not the richest of girls, you know, so we just have a little bed and no couch. So you'd have to share with all three of us.
And on this cold, cold night, it's gonna be crowded and sweaty and stuff.
Yeah. And we can't even afford pajamas.
No?
Which means we would be naked.
No, I think it'd be fine.
Great. The thing that's gonna make it more crowded? Harriet. You haven't met Harriet.
There's a fourth one.
Yeah. Don't worry, you're totally gonna like her because she is the sexy one.
It's really, really funny.
So they, like you said, they all get into a cab and then
Yeah.
they go to the house. I mean, you don't see what happens inside the house, but you can see from outside the house, and it's hilarious. Then he comes back and like his friend thinks, before he left, his friend thought it was a crazy idea. But when he comes back, and this is a completely different scene, obviously.
Yeah.
He comes back and he's got like two very attractive women with him, and his friend is like, his jaw's all the way on the ground.
Yeah, he comes back with their other friend, who's played by Shannon Elizabeth.
Right.
And then she's like, "Oh, you didn't meet my sister," and that's Denise Richards. So like, they just got the hottest actresses they could of like the 2000s to be like all the girls in that scene.
Exactly.
And of course, they all love Colin, the geek from London.
Right, because he has a British accent, and also because he has the name Colin. Like,
Yeah,
it's a perfect
they
British
ask
name.
They ask him to say different words like with his accent, and they're like, he says it, and they're like, "Oh, ha ha ha," and they're like, "How do you say table?" And he says table, and they're like, "Oh, well, that one wasn't so good."
Yeah, that was just the same.
Yeah. Fun movie, Josh. It was fun to like watch it and take notes and everything. So, even though my wife didn't accept your meeting invitation to be on the podcast, I did offer her to just do a separate recording just with me and her so she can go over her list. She declined that as well. But she did send me her list of her top 7 scenes. So I don't know if you want to hear them.
Yeah. Just let's hear them all. Go from 7 to 1.
Number 7 is the Prime Minister's dance. I talked about that jump by the Pointer Sisters.
Yep.
She finds that it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie, she says. Number 6 is something we didn't talk about. She says she's combined scenes here. She says the love advice given to the stepson and the relationship that they have. And she like you said, when you sort of mentioned it when they're sitting on the park bench and he's like, "Is that all? Is that all?" Like he thought it was worse. Like he's like, "You're in love, okay." And then but she says like at the end when he gets a kiss from Joanna at the airport, he hugs his stepfather and he's like, "Everything's gonna be all right." She says, that's really, really cute. So number 5 on her list, she says it's the sad. She finds it a sad scene. It's the Keira Knightley when Andrew Lincoln is giving her all the
cue cards.
The cue cards. She said it's sad. She goes, "I guess not all love stories have happy endings." She cheated. She has 2 in number 5 because she considers, yeah, exactly. She considers them also sad. It's this whole story with Alan Rickman and his wife when he bought the jewelry for the other girl and she finds it and she's sad. But she says, she says she stays with him in the end, which she says, I think it might be sadder than if they had broken up, so. Number 4 is what we said, the Prime Minister singing the Christmas carols, like the deep voice by the driver is completely unexpected. Number 3 is Billy Mack and his manager. It's continuation of what you talked about Billy Mack, but at the end they realize that they have this love for each other, and he says, "In the end, you turn out to be the love of my effing life," right? So that's her number 3. Number 2, Jamie proposes to Aurelia. We went into that in great detail. And number 1 is what we didn't have. Neither of us had it on our list. And I was surprised that this is her number 1. And it's the ending montage. The ending scene at the airport where you see all the people coming home and then everyone greeting them. The opening scene starts at the airport, and then the movie sort of starts at the airport, and then it ends at the airport. So the Beach Boys song is playing in the background, which is also a fantastic song. And she says, "You forget about all the couples you watched and think about all the moments that you have witnessed love." That's how my wife describes it. So she says, in the end, love is everywhere. That's what that scene is trying to tell us. So that's her number 1.
Yeah, no, it's a good one, but I intentionally left that one out just because there's too much going on in that last scene.
There's way too much going on with that. And then in my honorable mentions, the scene that I actually really thought could have made it is Laura Linney. I don't know who the character's name is, but the actress is Laura Linney.
Yep.
And she has her brother that's in like a mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It's very it's interesting that a movie in the early 2000s looked at mental illness in a way that we didn't always see. It's a way we see now because there's much more awareness about mental illness, but at that time this was probably ahead of its time. That scene where she's talking to him and she's always so soothing the way she talks to her brother. Oh my darling, and then at one point he gets frustrated and he tries to hit her, and she says, "Don't do that, my darling, don't do that." Like, she's so compassionate towards him, which is really it's actually quite a scene. So
there were a few scenes with her that I considered putting in my list because she was great in the movie.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
But again, I was only allowed to pick 7. So
right. When I see her, I just see the mom from Ozark. I'm like, wow, what the hell?
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. I know it's the same person, but I didn't even think of that.
Right.
One, I don't like to mention honorable mentions because it just takes too long. But do you remember the scene with Rowan Atkinson? He's the jewelry salesman when he's packing the necklace.
He's in 2 scenes actually.
Right, right. But when he's packing the necklace and and Alan Rickman just wants to get out of there quickly because he doesn't want his wife to see. And Rowan Atkinson is taking his sweet time wrapping this gift perfectly. It's just the way he does it. He's perfect in that scene.
And then he pulls out something and then he asks him, "What is that?" And he's like, "It's a cinnamon stick." All right. So that's Love Actually.
The Skip and Josh podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now for some final thoughts from the guys.
So do you have anything you'd like to talk about here at the end of the show, Josh? Leave the listeners with something else?
I guess one quick thing. So I don't know if you've been watching all the episodes of the Goldbergs this year.
I watched most of them. Yeah.
So the most recent one I saw happened to be on December 1st. And my favorite character made an appearance, John Calabasas.
He's the guy that's always trying to sell them something bad.
Right. In this case, he was trying to recruit people to go to his university, which is a made-up university. It's not even a real university.
Right, right.
So anyway, it was just pretty funny. The other thing that happens in that same episode is Adam's mother is trying to get into a tennis club.
Oh, I didn't see this one.
No, it's a new episode, so you probably haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's just funny.
I have to catch up. I mean, I'm imagining that the season's going to end with the wedding. Is that what's going to happen? I
don't know. I guess. I think this might be the last season of the show.
They should end it. I think it's time to end it. So. I want to tell you one thing.
Go ahead.
Bob McKenzie?
Yes.
From TSN, Sporting News.
Whatever,
yeah.
Writer. He's sort of semi-retired.
Yeah, he's semi-retired, but he launched his own brand this week. It's called Bobby Margarita. It's a margarita in a can.
That doesn't sound good at all.
It's really, really funny. He does like a little video for it. He put it on his Twitter account and he's like showing you his new venture and telling everybody to go buy the Bobby Margarita. In the video, he takes his blender. He's like, "You see this blender? This is what you normally need to make a margarita." He takes the blender, he opens the door to his house and he throws it out of the house.
So, I mean, I don't know. How different can one margarita be from another?
I don't know. But a margarita in a can, I mean, I know, look, I love Bob McKenzie, but it seems like a weird thing. Also, the other thing is, I watched the Beatles Get Back documentary.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you subscribe to Disney Plus. Oh, you already have Disney Plus.
Yeah, I do. So it's really long, right? It's like 7 hours. Like
7
each episode,
hours?
There's 3 parts, and each part is more than 2 hours long.
Wow.
So it's really, really long. And you think you're going to get some big revelation about something, but it's really just them sitting around talking. But
I was going to ask you, is there anything new in there that no one's seen before?
Well, I mean, no one saw any of this footage before. You what's amazing is you see the genesis, you see the spark of how a song was created. I mean, they start writing the song "Get Back" in the first episode. They don't have any words. All he has is a little bit of a melody and a beat. And then by the end of the end of the documentary, like "Get Back" is like a full blown song. Same thing with a bunch of other songs. Like they just the creative process. You see like how the song goes from just being a few notes into a full blown song. Like, and it's really amazing. Like Paul McCartney is like he's a musical genius beyond what people could comprehend. Like it's just unbelievable. Like how his mind, like I could never figure out like how a mind of a musician could work. You know, it's different than you and me. Like they see things differently, they hear things differently. Like it's quite incredible. But no, it's like if you're a huge Beatles fan, yeah, I would watch it. If I was making that movie and if I was Peter Jackson and I was the director of that movie, I would I would have made it half the time. Like there's a lot of stuff in there that I did not need to see, you know? So
No, well, there's no way I could write a song. So you're right. The way he thinks is certainly different than the way I think. That's for sure.
Right. All right. That's all I got. That's the last, this is our last kind of normal episode for the year.
It's a good way to go out.
Next episode, we're going to give out our awards for all our favorite stuff of the year, you know, like mostly sports stuff, but you know, our favorite TV show, favorite movies, favorite podcast, then also like our favorite teams, the play of the year, the MVP of the year in sports, all that kind of stuff.
Don't forget favorite song.
Favorite song, it's huge. I know it's a big one. You've had that written down for like at least 6 months.
I know, but then I heard another song, and so I think it might have been displaced.
Very nice. All right, I'll talk to you next time.
Have a great week.